Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Feliciano Live. We're talking about the Trump tariff plan. Will it cause a trade war? We're here with Dr. Zaman Zamanian. He's a professor of economics here at the Feliciano School of Business. I just want to remind everyone, as we're having this interview, if you have any questions, feel free to ask those questions and we'll get to as many as we can. So, Dr. Zamanian, can you first talk about what are tariffs and why are they used?
Well, tariffs is a tax on imported goods from other countries, and usually they use it for different reasons. One of the reason is generate revenue for government. They call it basically the revenue tariffs that basically impose on imported goods and generate more money for the regional, national government in that situation. Another reason for imposing tariffs is protective. The tariffs, they want to protect the domestic production, manufacturing, and basically by imposing that, they make it more difficult for imported goods. Today, we use the tariffs on two different levels, actually two other definitions. One is a negotiation tariffs that we could doing it right now, and that is basically impose tariffs on the countries whose tariffs policy is unfair or unsatisfactory. And the other one we're using is that basically on the national security tariff that is basically imposed for security of the domestic, basically readiness and the military production. These are all reasons for the imposing tariffs on imported goods that we have. Of course, when you put the tariffs, there would be lower decline imports, decline consumption, domestic consumption, but at the same time, we're going to have improve or increase the domestic employment and domestic production. And so we have to know exactly what we're going to do with the imposing tariffs in this situation, in this today. But before we really talk about that, we should talk about what is free trade. Everybody talk about free trade. The free trade is basically designed for the countries to produce and export goods that they have a comparative advantage and import goods that they have a comparative disadvantage. That means that the countries that have, for example, China that has a lot of workers, they produce goods that more labor intensive and export it to United States. And United States that they use a lot of capital and capital is cheaper, produce goods with the capital and export it to China. Both countries are going to benefit with no trade, no tariffs, free trade. So everybody is specialized in production of the goods that they have abundant resources to do that. But today, that free trade doesn't exist because capital moved from United States to China, produce goods with the United States, American capital, and come back to United States with no tariffs. And that is imbalance between the whole concept of free trade.
Great, thank you. For those of you who just joined us, we're here at Feliciano Live. We're talking about the Trump tariff plan and will it cause a trade war? Dr. Zamanian, he's the professor of economics here at the Feliciano School of Business. We actually did get a live question regarding what is your background?
I have a PhD in economics from Indiana University. My concentration international trade, and I'm teaching economics for the last over 30 years.
Great. Our second question is, what impact will President Trump's tariffs have on aluminum, steel, have on the economy? What impact will that have?
Well, the question is that it will happen or not. Okay, in my opinion, these things will not happen. But again, if it will happen, it will be basically protecting the workers in these two industries going to happen. But we know for the fact that right now, he exempt Canada, Mexico, and Australia from this imposing the tariffs on these two commodities. And he's using the also bilateral negotiation with European countries to make sure that they understand the reason for these tariffs are going to be. But if they impose tariff right now, of course, it's going to be effect on cost of the production will go up, and therefore that since the steel and aluminum is the intermediary commodities to produce other goods, the final goods for other goods will go up and just might cause some inflation, and therefore would be lower consumption in the United States.
Again, for those who just joined us, please ask questions as we go through this interview with Dr. Zamanian talking about the Trump tariff plan and what impact will it have on the economy. My next question is, what will these tariffs cause a trade war?
Well, I don't believe so because of the United States is a very large economy. 20% of the world GDP is actually produced by United States. And since this administration using bilateral negotiation with the trade partners, and all those trade partners are much smaller than United States, they will not cause the trade war. Right now, for example, if we import cars, for example, from Europe, probably we pay the tariff on that is 2 to 3%. But European countries if we export cars to Europe, they pay, I think, 10% for the import tariff and then 19% for the value added tax. That means Europe has 29 to 30% already tax on Americans' cars, and we have almost 2 or 3%. So I don't believe that the Europeans are willing to go to the trade war, or even though this administration is willing to do that.
Okay, we actually have a question regarding, will this have any impact on jobs in the United States?
And definitely will affect jobs in the United States. If you look at what going on with our economy and what is the President Trump did on the campaign, all he talked about jobs, jobs, jobs. So therefore, what his strategy is going to be that through the supply side economy, create jobs. And that supply side economy started with the tax reform. And if you know, he actually reduced the taxes on corporation almost by half to 21% from 38. And that generated a lot of companies to move to United States and create jobs, because jobs created by the private sector. And not only that, by imposing some tariffs on goods that produced by American corporations overseas coming to the United States, they're going to make them more profitable for them to move back to the United States. And that means that more jobs in the United States, and there will not be, I think that the economy is going to be much better a year from now as a result of this tax policy and the tariffs policy.
Okay, we have a live question. What import will be affected the most?
Well, the import coming from, we have imported a lot of commodities from a lot of countries. It all depends on what consumers wants to get. I don't believe that the import that we go importing to our countries, mostly the heavy, for example, machineries, and also that automobiles is going to be a little bit affected. So it's going to be less import from other countries if that would happen.
Next question. President Trump talks about this leveling the playing field by these tariffs being implemented. What does that mean? What does he mean by leveling the playing field?
Well, this goes back by definition of what is free trade. Again, free trade is defined by producing goods that a country has comparative advantage. But unfortunately, right now, there's no level playing field because most of the corporations move their facilities and manufacturing to overseas. Producing goods with a cheap labor, bring it back to the United States with no taxes or no tariffs. And that would be not basically good for American workers. And that is, we see that the unemployment increase and all different things comes with that. So therefore, by imposing this tariff, and that means that most of the corporation will move back to the United States, and that would be improve the employment and lower unemployment in the United States.
Okay, again, we're here with Dr. Zamanian, professor of economics here at the Feliciano School of Business. We're talking about the Trump tariff plan and the impact it's going to have on the economy and potentially in the world. My next question is, President Trump recently announced that he may have European car makers pay a tax. What impact will this have? Well,
right now we have different level of the taxes. We tax their cars coming to the United States 2-3%. They tax American cars almost 30%. So if we impose another 25% on European cars coming to the United States, we're still below their tax rate, and the total tax rate is going to be. So is this going to happen? I do not think that this will happen. I don't think there will be a trade war between the United States and European countries and any other countries. But President Trump used this negotiation tariff just to make sure that the tariff is going to be fair and it's going to be basically satisfactory for America. So I don't believe that is going to happen. But if it does happen, still United States has a lower tariff on imported goods from Europe than European countries.
Okay, and I think the last question is, how will the rest of the world react, in your opinion?
Well, if we negotiate bilateral negotiation with each country alone are much smaller than United States. So they are not going to be able to really compete with the United States or negotiate with the United States to their benefit. That is the reason President Trump asked for the bilateral negotiation rather than just multilateral negotiation. What would happen to these countries? Yes, there would be some unsatisfactory by the different countries, but the end, we have to look at the United States economy and how that impacts the United States, not other countries. So in the whole idea that we have right here, that in a year or year and a half from now, most of these multinational corporations move back to the United States, create a lot of jobs, and this is the basic supply side economy that I think President Trump is following as what we saw the last year or so.
Great. Well, thank you, Dr. Zamanian, and thank you for all of us that have joined us. We'll see you next week, Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, as we continue our discussion on Feliciano Live. Thank you again.
Thank you.